everyone, my name's Mike Tidwell. Can you hear me okay, Denise? Stuff? Can you hear? Hear good? Louder? Better? Okay. Hi, my name's Mike Tidwell. I'm director of the Chesapeake Climate Action Network, and we are here to talk about Dominion Resources and Terry McAuliffe and ancient Appalachian Mountains. Dominion Resources intends to blast away, excavate, and partially remove entire mountaintops along 38 miles of Appalachian ridgelines as part of the construction of the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. Documents show that in a massive undertaking, between 10 and 60 feet of the tops of mountain ridges would be quote-unquote reduced along 38 miles of the proposed pipeline route in West Virginia and Virginia. For perspective, the height equivalent of a 5-story building would be erased in places from fully forested and ancient mountains. The pipeline would transport frack gas from West Virginia into Virginia and North Carolina. Dominion's proposed construction method and route selection across and along steep mountains is unprecedented for the region, if not the nation, and is viewed as extreme and radical by landowners, conservationists, and engineers. Beyond the obvious ecological and geological harm to the mountains themselves, Dominion has yet to reveal how it intends to dispose of at least 240,000 dump truck loads of excess rock and soil known as overburden that would accumulate from the construction along these 38 miles of mountaintops. So for folks here today, we wanted to show this graphic right here. We've tried to just schematically represent. Here, the first frame is a mountain ridge before Dominion starts building this quote-unquote clean gas pipeline. The second frame, you can see 40 feet of average, forest tops. Those are trees. Some of the forests are very much taller. We'll hear from folks from Nelson County where their trees are much taller than 40 feet, but we've represented 40 feet of clear cut of forest here. Then between 10 and 60 feet of mountains would be removed, and then the final frame should show also a de facto question mark, because we don't know where they're going to put all the excess. But you can see the mountaintop is removed. Dominion says they're going to remove the top of the mountains temporarily, and they're actually going to put the rock and rubble and soil back on top in a way that they won't reveal the details of, which is quite a mystery. And I would say for those of you in the media, there is so much here we don't know. We only have answers for part of the questions. There is a lot that Dominion has not answered. For example, where are they going to put the rubble and soil temporarily as they bury the pipeline? How are they going to get all that rubble and soil back on top these steep slopes? What is the right-of-way going to be? Dominion says it might not be 125 feet wide, but they've told the West Virginia state that they need 125 feet. They've told Highland County Board of Supervisors in Virginia they need 125 feet, and they've told FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, that they need 125 feet. And if you go to 125-foot right-of-way for these pipelines, then you have to take between 10 and 60 feet of the mountaintops off. So if Dominion isn't going to use 125 feet right-of-way, why do they keep telling state, county, and federal government regulators that they need that? They need to prove to us something different, and that's where all these questions have not been answered. So our message here today, before I turn it over to people who will be directly impacted by this, is Governor McAuliffe, we know that you've accepted political campaign money from Dominion Power, but today we're asking you, please, Governor McAuliffe, don't let Dominion tear down 38 miles of precious Appalachian mountaintops for a pipeline for frack gas that's not even needed. So now these statistics and these maps are one thing, but now you can hear from people affected directly by the pipelines themselves. And our first speaker will be Joe McGonigal. He is president of the New Land Homeowners Association, an association of homeowners living at the base of Roberts Mountain. And oh wait, no, where's Roberts Mountain? There's Roberts Mountain. And that is the mountain that would be reduced by like 50 or 60 feet if Dominion builds their pipeline right there. So Joe, come on up.
I'm Joe McMonagle. I'm the president of the Homeowners Association at Roberts Mountain, our development. My wife is currently holding the picture. Her business, an entire campus of her business is just below that ridge, and there are at least 5 homes just below that ridge. All these homes are fed by water coming out of the rocks, the fragmented rocks of that mountain. I would remind the governor that this is the very mountain that dumped probably a million tons of mud, rock, and debris into the Muddy and Davis Creek area during Hurricane Camille. It's a very unstable mountain. It killed a lot of people in Nelson County, and anything to top that mountain is just going to disturb it even more. The fact that they want to put a experimental 42-inch pipeline, natural gas pipeline, into the granite of that mountain is going to further destabilize it. I don't see how they're going to keep erosion from occurring on that mountain, because when you remove old growth forest in the tops of a mountain, you either put back a lot of topsoil or nothing's going to grow, and all you're going to get is a lot of weathering and erosion, and that's going to cause many slides, and we're going to wind up having the same thing occur in our streams on the front side of the mountain that occurred in Muddy and Davis Creek on the back side of the mountain. This is a very dangerous undertaking, and we're going to lose our water. Anytime there's been any form of construction on the mountain, my wife and I have had to have another well drilled for our home. We're down to teeing 2 wells together to maintain our home. I asked Dominion directly if they were prepared to buy my home if I couldn't get water to it, and they refused to even answer the question. I would ask them how exactly they plan on doing this, and how they're going to prevent that mountain from sliding down and being in the front yard of 4 or 5 of my neighbors. This is nothing but craziness, and again, I asked the governor to please stop this silliness before somebody is seriously hurt by this entire construction idea.
Great, thank you. That was Joe McGonigal. He's president of the Newland Homeowners Association in Nelson County, right below Roberts Mountain. And our next speaker is Bill Limpert. He is a retired environmental regulator. He's here today with his wife, Lynn, and they are property owners in Little Valley in Bath County, whose old growth ridgetop forest would be destroyed and whose home would be located well within the blast zone of the pipeline. Bill?
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for everything you're doing, and thank you all for coming here today. My name is Bill Limpert. This is my wife, Lynn. We drove in from Bath County today. We own property in Bath County. It's retirement property. We have a home there as well. We bought the property 8 years and 1 week ago. We had a retirement home built there 5 years ago. It's an incredibly beautiful place, as the photos could probably show you. It's very rugged property. It's a series of ridges and hollows coming off of Jack Mountain. It ranges from 2,400 feet elevation to 3,600 feet. It's remote, it's quiet, it's clean air, it's clean water. We love it. Property is mostly forested. We have a lot of really big trees. As a matter of fact, that's one reason we bought the property. We saw the enormous trees on the property. Last fall, we had Mark Sims, a forester from Stanton, Virginia, come out to access our old growth forest. And he determined that a large part of the old growth was actually uncut, never before timbered forest, which is really rare and unique. Unfortunately, just about 15 months ago, we learned that the Atlantic Coast Pipeline alternate route was proposed to cut our property in half and run right up what we call Miracle Ridge. It's a 3,000-foot ridge that goes through our property before it tops over the top of Jack Mountain. Now, we called it Miracle Ridge because of all the large trees that are growing there. And when we walk underneath those trees, we get an incredible feeling of awe. If the Atlantic Coast Pipeline comes through as proposed, all those trees will be gone. It'll cut 125-foot and maybe 150-foot swath through 3,000 feet of our property, through 3,000 feet of old-growth forest. Trees would all be felled. We took a closer look into the proposal and realized that Dominion says that they have to cut the property down or cut the ridge down to 125-foot flat, which would mean they'd have to cut this ridge down 20 feet to make a flat surface. And they would have to cut an extra 10 feet to open a trench big enough to put the large 42-inch natural gas pipeline into it. So we figured they may have to excavate as much as 30 feet, including blasting 25 feet deep for 3,000 feet through bedrock. What was once a beautiful view off of our front porch and living room of a ridge with giant trees going up to the top of Jack Mountain will become a pathway of rubble as wide as most interstate highways. Dominion says they will restore the area. There won't really be anything left to restore except for rubble and blasted rocks. Very little soil left to revegetate anything, much less replace ancient 400- and 500-year-old trees. So we're not the only ones that would be impacted. As Mike said, there's 38 other miles along the western portion of the pipeline where ridgetop removal would also occur. Little Mountain, just to our west, would also have 0.7 of a mile removed. That's all visible from our home. In fact, in some areas, particularly along Route Scenic 220, coming down from Monterey and Highland County to Warm Springs, you would see a mountaintop removal on your left and a mountaintop removal on your right. So it wouldn't be uncommon in our beautiful area to see this. Besides the visible destruction to our beautiful environment, we fear for our safety. No pipeline of this size has ever been put through steep slopes, karst terrain, as we have in Western Virginia. As a matter of fact, in the summer of 2015, on our property and in Little Valley, we suffered numerous landslides. One of the landslides, we climbed up the mountain and measured it 500 feet long, 37 feet wide, up to 7 feet deep. This is within several hundred feet of where Dominion wants to put their pipeline and on the exact same terrain. Another landslide of this nature would easily have exposed and possibly ruptured this pipeline and caused a catastrophic explosion. This pipeline has the explosive capacity of our nation's largest bombs. Our house would be within 600 feet of the pipeline. We're very concerned. We would be dead in a pipeline explosion. There's no question about that. If we somehow survive, we and our neighbors would be trapped in the upper portion of Little Valley with the pipeline below us at the dead end of the road in the evacuation zone with no escape and no rescue whatsoever. So we call on the governor to, I know that the governor has supported this project from the get-go. We've written the governor many times. We've gotten one response, and it was a form letter showing all the wonderful things he's done for the environment. We've invited him to come out to the property. We invite all you to come out to the property as well. But we encourage the governor and urge him to reconsider his position and reject this pipeline. So thank you very much for coming. We appreciate your presence here. Thank you for giving us a voice.
Thank you. That was Bill Limpert from Bath County. We have two quick additional speakers, and we're going to turn it over to any questions or separate interviews that y'all might want to do. Our next speaker is Nancy McGonigal, and she is president and executive director of the Monroe Institute, a nonprofit educational organization located on Roberts Mountain itself in Nelson County. Nancy?
Thank you, Mike. Thank all of you very much for being here today. Monroe Institute is an educational and research organization which has done business in Nelson County since 1979. We contribute about $2 million to the economy in Nelson County. We employ 50 people and service contractors. And if the Atlantic Coast Pipeline comes through our institute property, our operations will be decimated. All these jobs will be lost, and thousands of our customers globally will be left without our services. Due to the use of audio technology in our research and educational programs, we require absolute quiet to conduct business, something the ACP would be schooling. Our student participants come from all over the world to attend our regional programs, which allows them to immerse in our tranquil, beautiful, and life-giving atmosphere. In addition to decimating the beauty and tranquility of our countryside, the ACP will likely eradicate our water supply as well, due to the need to blast the area for burying the pipeline. The Monroe Institute's success and existence are dependent on this quiet and beautiful location, the reason we have been in Nelson County for 40 years. The destruction of this setting in which we must operate will annihilate our operations and our organization. So we ask that Governor McAuliffe reject the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. Please, sir. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Our next and final speaker is Ed Knight. He's a native Virginian. He grew up in Giles County. He is an avid fisherman. He's fished most of the major trout streams in the state and is very concerned what these two pipelines, the Atlantic Coast and the Mountain Valley Pipeline, would do in terms of impacts on wildlife and trout streams. Ed?
Thank you all. Appreciate y'all.
Hold it real close to your mouth.
Like you said, I'm Ed Knight. I grew up in Virginia, grew up in Giles County, and I love being outdoors, especially with a fishing pole in my hand. But when I heard that Dominion Power had recently disclosed that they wanted to use the mountaintop removal process as part of the pipeline construction, it really concerned me. Growing up in Giles County, there wasn't any coal mining there, but only a couple of counties away in Virginia and West Virginia, you can see the results of strip mines. Absolutely decimates anything in its range. The coal mining known as the mountaintop is usually, extraction is usually created by blasting the top of the mountain away. The resulting debris, which is called overburden, is then, generally speaking, dumped into the valley right beside it. This ends up destroying any streams, any stream life, and any ecosystem that is in the forest bed bottom at the bottom of this valley after you get all this dumped on it. Any of the reclamation efforts that they try are pretty shabby at best. Mostly, you've got to put some topsoil and maybe spread a little grass seed around, and that's it. They claim that a lot of this flattened area can be reused for commercial applications, but the Environmental Protection Agency has pointed out that only about 4% of these things are ever used for anything other than the strip mining. This removal is just permanently going to scar the George Washington and Jefferson National Forests. It's going to have a really negative impact on any of the small trout streams like Big or Little Stony Creek or the Jackson River, and it's going to have major impacts on other river ecosystems like the James and the New Rivers. And these resources, remember, they don't belong to Dominion Power. They belong to everybody here and everybody in the state. Dominion Resources seems to have a pretty bad disregard for what the people of the state really want to have happen. And I think this is proven by their dewatering efforts at Bremo Bluff and at Possum Point. I urge Governor McAuliffe to put a stop to this mountaintop removal plan. The results are going to damage the ecosystem forever, for at best what could be considered only temporary benefits. again, thank you all for coming out and giving me a voice.
Great, thank you very much. And that was Ed Knight. He wasn't on the press advisory. The last name is Knight. Ed Knight, lifelong fisherman, lives here in Richmond, grew up in Giles County. So be happy to answer any questions y'all might have for any of the folks here today.
The main question I have is, have you seen any schematic drawings of the sections that would be removed? I think Bill said they haven't. What portion of the 125 would be excavated with all of the center?
Yeah, has anybody seen any drawings from Dominion on how the reduction of these mountaintops would look like?
They wouldn't even provide us with the right-of-way.
Right. They wouldn't even tell you where the right-of-way would be. Now, I know that Dominion has said, well, 125 feet, maybe we'll use less than that. And what I said earlier in my comments is they've told the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission 125 feet. They told the Highland County Board of Supervisors 125 feet, the state of West Virginia. If they're not going to use 125-foot right-of-way, what are they going to use? When are they going to show us? And that's where, honestly, there are more questions unanswered than answered here. We're going to go with what they've told, they filed in terms of their documents. And even if it's less than 125 feet, they will have to blast the tops off mountains. They're going to have to blast through rock, and they're going to have to cut down the trees, including the ones on Miracle Ridge in Bath County, old growth forest. You can see these photographs. There's one photograph of an amazingly, the tree must be 300 years old. And they're going to come in. So, Governor McAuliffe likes to say over and over again, he supports the pipelines if they're done in an environmentally friendly way. The question is, how do you remove the tops of mountains in an environmentally friendly way? And then I've seen Dominion even saying, well, we're going to have to excavate the tops of these mountains temporarily. Take the tops off million-year-old mountaintops. That is just farcical. It is ridiculous and shameful that Dominion would even think that the public of Virginia would accept something called temporary mountaintop removal. So it's time for Dominion and the governor to finally come clean with the Virginian public and call a duck a duck. If this is not mountaintop removal, what would they call reducing the equivalent of a 5-story building like this one right here next to us from the top of a mountain? What is it called? To us, it's mountaintop removal. To them, it's temporary mountain removal. And how could that be environmentally friendly?
What concrete steps are you hoping for?
So the question is, what concrete steps are we hoping the governor will take? I know I speak for everyone here in saying, first of all, the governor should show leadership on this issue. It is ironic that yesterday, Governor McAuliffe sent a letter to Donald Trump asking Donald Trump to honor the Paris Climate Accord, that the governor is so concerned about an international agreement on climate change, but he seems to be perfectly okay with mountaintop removal for frack gas in his own state. So we are asking the governor to simply fulfill his regulatory and moral responsibility and use the Clean Water Act. The governor has full authority under the Clean Water Act to reject the necessary water permits that Dominion needs to build the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. Governor Cuomo in New York used his authority under the Clean Water Act to reject the Columbia pipeline there based on the impact that that pipeline would have on water. The governor could do that in Virginia. He has the power. He says he doesn't. He either doesn't understand the law or he's misleading the public.
We're gonna lose a lot of our homes because our homes are fed by trickles of water through the rock structure. And if they start blasting, all that water is going to go away. And I've asked Dominion if they'll buy my home if I can't get water, and they said no, they're not even going to address that.
Any other questions?
Are we
I'm sure all of us here would be happy to stick around if anybody wants to do one-on-one interviews or go into more depth. There's contact information in your press kit. There's this briefing book at the end of it. There are different people who were involved in putting these facts together. You'll see their emails, their phone numbers. You can follow up with any of them to get more information. We've tried to be as fact-based as we can. We have detailed maps here. We have all the information. We've done a lot more in terms of actual facts than Dominion has in explaining their situation. I mean, we call on Dominion to actually come clean. How much of the mountains? How much of the right-of-way? How many mountains? You know, what are you going to do with the overburden? The burden is on them to provide more facts. We're dealing with all the publicly available facts that we can find right now, but again, there are more questions unanswered than answered. We'd be happy to stick around and talk more to anybody who'd like to do more interviews. Thank you. Yeah, the banner. Can we grab the banner? Because that has a message. I tell you what, Lee, why don't you grab the banner? Hey, let's all come together. We're going to hold up the banner. I don't know if anybody wants to take one more photo. Okay, well, let's come forward, everyone. And you want to come on this side, Ed? I'll be right here, right here. All right. You want to get the bottom of that, Nancy? Ed, you want to get the bottom corner? All right. Great. And again, everybody here will be happy to stick around if you have any follow-up questions. Good? Got it?
Yeah, I'm Kate.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yes, sir.
One of the things I discovered when I was looking